Hello and welcome back to the Trainers of the World Tournament Season 2. I'm your host DeltaTDS, and today is the start of Round 2, or what I'm going to be calling the Coaling Round. Once we're done with Round 2, we will be left with 64 trainers. For match number 48, we've got the Security Core Beni going up against the Instructor Tyme. We can see that Tyme mostly uses rock type Pokemon, while Beni's got a variety of different Pokemon found in Hisui. Once these trainers are ready, we're going to see who's going to be taking game number 1 of match 49. Starting off with the Dreadnought Stonejourner, Beni starts off with the Garchomp and the Magnezone. That Magnezone does have that air balloon. Going for the Protect, Garchomp goes for Earthquake, dude, 83% to Dreadnought, not hitting that Magnezone. Dreadnought goes for Shell Smash, as Electroweb takes out the Dreadnought. Basically wastes that Pokemon. Sending out the Lycanroc now, Dusk form. I think this is the first trainer to have a Dusk Lycanroc, I think. Aside from Ash, of course. Lycanroc going Terra Fighting, close combat takes out the Garchomp as it gets hurt by that Rough Skin. Magnezone with Electroweb, a critical hit on Lycanroc takes it out. Body Press does 61% to Magnezone, popping that air balloon. Sending out the Gigalith as Beni sends out the Gardevoir. Sandstorm starting up. Gigalith going Wide Guard. Shadow Ball doing 22% to Gigalith. Electroweb not gonna hit it thanks to that Wide Guard. And Body Press takes out that Magnezone, bringing Beni down to 4 Pokemon as well, making this an even game once again. Beni's gonna send out the Kleavor. You know what's funny? This thing can learn Tailwind. Well, it can have Tailwind because Scyther learns Tailwind, which I think is so funny. Gardevoir going for a Shadow Ball, taking out the Stonejourner. Stone Axe does 44% to Gigalith. Heavy Slam does 50% to Zoroark, getting rid of that illusion. And Tyme sends out the Glimmora now. Glimmora going to Mega Evolve. Gigalith goes for the Protect against that Zoroark's Shadow Ball. Sludge Wave, not enough to take out the Zoroark, but poisons the Kleavor. Critical hit Psycho Cut brings Glimmora down to 6%. Sandstorm finishes off that Zoroark, and Kleavor is at less than half HP right now because of that poison. Beni's gonna send back out the Gardevoir, tracing that Sandstream so it won't get hit by the Sandstorm. Gardevoir going to Mega Evolve. Sludge Wave, super effective, brings Gardevoir down to 4%. Everything's in the red. Hyper Voice takes out Glimmora and Gigalith. Kleavor Stone Axe fails. Sandstream takes out the Gardevoir. Beni sends out the Sneasler, and Tyme sends out her Kleavor now. This thing's probably gonna die from a close combat. Probably. Kleavor going for Protect against that Fake Out. I'm getting word that was a misclick. I'm getting word that was a misclick by Beni's part. What a monumental misclick. Kleavor doing 50% to Sneasler with Stone Axe. What an insane misclick. Close combat doesn't take out the Kleavor. Stone Axe takes out the Sneasler. And by pure luck, I guess, Tyme takes game number 1. That is insane. And we are back on the field for game number 2. We can see that Tyme has a different team with that Rhyperior as the ace, and Beni has a nearly similar team, but with Roserade and the Gallade as the ace. Once these trainers are ready, we can begin game number 2 and see if Tyme will take this to take match 48 or if Beni's taking it to a game number 3. Starting off with the Probopass and Carbink, Beni sends out the Garchomp and the Magnezone with that Air Balloon. Avoid that Earthquake like game 1. Probopass isn't going to like that Earthquake at all. Carbink going Terra Dark. Earthquake going to take out that Probopass, doing 29% to Carbink. Carbink's left at 50% after that Tri-Attack as it goes for a Trick Room. It's going to let Tyme's slow Pokemon be able to move first, at least for 4 turns. Tyme's going to send out the Rhyperior now. Honestly, super goated Pokemon. It's a shame how low its special defense is. Body Press doing 45% to Magnezone, popping the balloon. Ice Punch takes out the Garchomp, taking a bit from that Rough Skin. Tri-Attack does 19% to Carbink. It's currently 5v5 right now. Still anyone's game here. Beni's gonna send out the Sneasler now. We saw this thing get hit by Cleaver's Stone Axe, but thankfully Cleaver's not on the field right now. Carbink going for Protect, Fake Out, gonna do 6% to Rhyperior, flinching it. Tri-Attack goes into that Protect. Dazzling Gleam doing just a little bit to Beni's Pokemon. Earthquake takes out both of Beni's Pokemon as Tyme's Carbink lives on 2%. Beni sends out the Gallade and the Roserade, notably level 95, but let's ignore that, you know? Is that the real Gallade? Oh boy. Dazzling Gleam doing a bit of damage, destroying Zoroark's illusion. Earthquake takes out Zoroark and the Carbink. Energy Ball is going to take out the Rhyperior. It's currently at 2v3 right now, if I'm counting correctly. And I'm pretty sure I passed kindergarten, so I think I am. Sending out the real Gallade, as well as Gigalith and the Colossal. These rock types are not going to like the grass and fighting type that Beni's got right now. Gallade gonna Mega Evolve. Aqua Cutter takes out the Colossal with a critical hit. Energy Ball doing 70% with the critical hit. Heavy Slam doing 40% to Gallade. It's now 2v2 right now as Tyme sends out the Garganackle. God, Gallade is such a sick Pokemon. Garganackle going for Protect against that Sacred Sword. Energy Ball takes out the Gigalith. And Tyme just has that Garganackle remaining. Sacred Sword does 66%. Energy Ball finishes off that Garganackle, and with 2 Pokemon remaining, Beni takes game number 2, which means we are going on to a game number 3. And we are back on the field. Tyme has the team from game 1, sending out the Lycanroc and the Stonejourner as Beni goes with that same lead 3 games in a row. Air Balloon, Magnezone, and Garchomp. Switching out the Garchomp to the Sneasler, Lycanroc goes Terra Fighting, Stonejourner goes Protect. Post Combat takes out the Sneasler as Electro Web does 56% to Lycanroc, lowering its speed. Sending back out the Garchomp. Lycanroc's now going to be slower than Garchomp because of that speed drop, so not really in a good position here. Earthquake, critical hit on Lycanroc, takes out the Lycanroc. Volt Switch takes out the Stonejourner. And already Tyme is down 2 Pokemon as Beni sends out the Roserade to replace that Magnezone. Tyme sends out the Cleavor and the Glamora. We saw that this thing is in fact a Mega with, you know, a decent ability. I think Levitate would have been funnier. That's why I'm not the one making these Mega abilities. Otherwise, I'd make them all broken. Switching out the Roserade to the Magnezone, Glamora goes Mega. Energy Ball does 41% to Garchomp. Earthquake takes out the Glamora. Cleavor's left on less than half HP. X-Scissor takes out the Garchomp. Sending out the Roserade, Tyme sends out the Gigalith, starting up the Sandstream. You know Roserade is a terrifying Pokemon for... Actually, a lot of Beni's Pokemon are terrifying for Tyme's team. We've got Steel-type Magnezone, Grass-type Roserade, Fighting-type Gallade, Fighting-type Sneasler. Oh my god, there's two of them. Shadow Ball from the Roserade takes out the Cleavor. I don't remember Roserade getting a Shadow Ball. Tyme's gonna send out, I believe, her last Pokemon, that Dreadnought. Again, this is being edited or recorded like post, so I have no clue how many Pokemon these two have. Which one's the real one? Gigalith going Protect. Shadow Ball hits that Protect. Energy Ball takes out the Dreadnought. And it's all down to this Gigalith here. Which, I don't know if it's got much of a chance, honestly. Shadow Ball does 22%. Energy Ball does 51% to Gigalith. Rock Slide doing quite a bit of damage to both Roserades, revealing the Zoroark. And I think this is where Gigalith falls. Shadow Ball does take out the Gigalith. And Beni takes game number 3, which means he is our winner for match number 48. Thank you so much for watching, and join us for match 49, where we'll be seeing the Pokemon Professor Mabel going up against the Team Star Boss Mela. Thank you so much for watching, and until then, take care.